Hi, this is Ed from Musical Lessons, and today we're going to take a look at a song by the other Ed Sheeran. Or actually, that would make me the other Ed because more people know him than they know me. But we're going to check out Thinking Out Loud off of his second studio album, X, released in 2014. Now, I encourage you to check out the blog post because there's a lot of additional information in there. There's a bunch of links. There's a YouTube video link. There is a link to the tab. However, I will provide a chord chart and walk you through how to play this tune. And there's also playing tips. So I'll break down the chords, the playing techniques, the song form, all that stuff. So grab your guitar and we'll check this out. Thinking Out Loud is a great song for beginners. We're going to be using a fingerstyle technique, open chords in the key of C. However, we're playing in the key of D. We're using a capo at the 2nd fret, but we're going to be thinking in the key of C. Our chords are just going to sound better in the key of C, and also we're going to use some fingerstyle techniques that I'm going to break down for you as well. Okay, so I'll see you back here in a second and we'll break down the chords. We're going to be using chords in the key of C. 5 basic chord forms. Okay, so we're going to use the C major chord, our garden variety C major. Now our second chord uses the E string in the bass. Okay, so, but that's still a C chord. We're also going to use a D minor that appears in the pre-chorus. We're going to be playing an F. Now I like this F chord. You can play the bar chord if you like, but I prefer using this more of the traditional blues and folk voicing of the F chord, which has the first finger on the 2nd string 1st fret, the 2nd finger on the 3rd string 2nd fret, and the 3rd finger on the 4th string 3rd fret. My thumb is draped over the bass note to play the F there. And then I've also prefer this G chord, which is a 4-finger version of the G chord, which uses my 1st finger on the 5th string 2nd fret, my 2nd finger on the 6th string 3rd fret, and my 3rd and 4th fingers are on the 2nd and 1st strings at the 3rd fret. Now, because I use a fingerstyle pattern, I sometimes will not fret with my 1st finger. I won't use the 5th string 2nd fret. I'll just use this 3-finger version of the G chord. And the fingerstyle pattern is very basic. It's very traditional to have my thumb play the bass notes. So my thumb is going to move from the 5th string to the 6th string, like it does on that C chord. It stays on the 6th string for the F and the G. My index, middle, and ring fingers are on the 4th, 2nd, and 3rd strings, and I use them together. I use them as one. I also use a percussive strum. So what you'll sometimes see and hear is what I'm doing is I'm lifting my fingers, then I bring them back down on the string. At the same time, I simultaneously will pulse with my left hand, so it has this double effect. What it does is it mutes the strum and creates a percussive effect. Okay, so that's another thing that we'll be using in this tune. And lastly, I'm going to use a finger strum technique where what I'll do is I'll use my index and middle fingers and I'll use them as though they were a pick. Now I like this effect a little bit better because it brushes the strings. It's not as aggressive as a pick, so it creates a nice texture for fingerstyle playing. All right, so those are the techniques, those are the chords. We'll come back and break down this tune. The verse and the chorus for Thinking Out Loud share the same basic chord riff. Now the main chord riff is made up of 4 chords and 2 measures long. Okay, so the first measure is C to a C with an E in the bass. And all I'm doing is I'm going to change my thumb from playing on the 5th string to playing on the 6th string. The other thing that I'm using is I'm using left hand pulsing. So what you'll see is that my left hand will stop the string from ringing. On beats 2 and 4, I also use a percussive strum where I bring my right hand down on the strings. And what I'm really doing is I'm trying to emulate a snare drum. Okay, so it sounds like this. I do the same thing on the 2nd measure on the chords F and G. Okay, so now here, my thumb is just going to stay on the 6th string for the F and the G chords, and I'm going to do the same percussive strum along with the pulsing. When we put it all together, we get this. Okay, so work on that, and I'll see you back here in a second. The pre-chorus is 8 measures long. It's a 4-bar pattern that repeats and uses 3 chords, D minor, G, and C. The pattern itself is 1 measure of D minor, followed by a measure of G for 2 beats and C for 2 beats. Then 1 measure of D minor and 1 measure of G. The strumming that I use, I'm pretty much holding the chords down. I'm not using the pulsing that I was using for the verse and the chorus. And I'm using my index and middle fingers to strum. And what they're doing is they're just brushing the strings. And I'm just going down and up. 8 notes, up and down. And you can feel that. You can just go. You can strum freely. I use pulsing in some places to create some accents and to create some texture. Okay, so just work on those chord changes and work on that fingerstyle strumming, and I'll see you back here in a sec. The interlude is also used as a tag in the end of the tune, and it's where we have the most chord movement going on. We start out with an A minor chord, followed by G chord, F chord, C with an E in the bass, then the D minor, and G to C. Okay, now each one of them gets pretty much a beat. What I'm doing is I'm using the brushing technique that we learned in our pre-chorus. G, F. Now you can play the F bar chord or the F chord like I like, that folk version of the F chord. Then the C with an E in the bass. And our final measure has the D minor. And here's where the tricky move comes in. We can go G to C. What I like to do is use a 2-finger version of the G chord, where my 3rd finger plays the 6th string 3rd fret and my 4th finger plays the 1st string 3rd fret. The pad of my 3rd finger will mute the 5th string, so I don't get any annoying buzzing. This puts me in position to easily grab the C chord. This is where the tricky move is. Okay, so you're going, rather than having to adjust all the fingers. Oh, that's up to you. I tend to use both because sometimes I end up scrambling, forgetting which chord comes up next, because as happens with interludes and bridges, you're not prepared for them if you're not concentrating on the tune, so they sometimes will sneak up on you. Okay, so be careful if that happens. And what you'll notice is it really is just this bass line. It's a descending diatonic bass line. Okay, so work on that. And I'll see you back here in a second. I hope you enjoyed hanging with me and checking out Thinking Out Loud. As I said in the introduction to this piece, it is an R&B inspired tune. So if you haven't checked out any traditional R&B artists, any traditional Motown artists, then I encourage you to do so. It's always nice to see where today's singers and songwriters are getting their inspiration from. Lastly, I thank you for hanging with me, and I'll see you here next time.